What a pain. So this is what I wanted to do 16 minutes ago. I've said before, now I'm going to repeat everything I said while I was, one, trying to stream, but not actually live streaming. And then two, live streaming, but just talking to myself because no one else could hear me. So I want to talk about, obviously, the articles of impeachment that were released today, the public copy that was released by the House. It is a draft copy that is going to go to, it's a House resolution, so it's going to go to a vote. And I want to talk a little bit about my disappointment in this. I've kind of turned into the criticizing of all of the Democrat tactics and strategy guy, and I don't know that I like that, but I'm gonna call bullshit when it needs to be called, whether that be presidential candidates or whether that be this, what has turned into kind of a fiasco with this House resolution of two articles of impeachment, one for abuse of power and one for obstruction of Congress. Not obstruction of justice, obstruction of Congress. And that's my problem with this. So I'm going to answer a whole bunch of questions, as many as I can through the chat. Like I said, obviously, I think it's quite obvious that I am not a live stream pro at all. I do want to get better at this. This is something I said before. I do want to get better at this because I think it's important. One, when shit goes down like this, when news like this drops, I want to be able to just jump in front of the camera and talk about it, and then the video can just queue up and go into my feed as a regular video for people to watch afterward. Plus, I can take questions live here. Now, I'm going to get better at this. I'm going to be able to take phone calls live. I'm going to be able to have questions that come up. I'm going to hopefully have software that I can just run up the question on the screen. So it's going to be a lot better. I just have to figure it out because I am a dummy when it comes, I'm a dummy when it comes to a lot of things. But I'm certainly a dummy when it comes to tech. So anyway, let's get into this. I'm not going to read this whole thing. It is only 9 pages, 8 really, because there's only 2.5 lines on the second page. But I want to read just a little bit of this. Some of it goes through and it talks about the same things I've been talking about in videos. Articles of impeachment. Article 1, Section 2 gives the sole power of impeachment to the House of Representatives. It goes through that. But then on page 2, it goes through Article 1, abuse of power. The Constitution provides that the House of Representatives, again, shall have the sole power of impeachment, and that the president shall be removed from office on impeachment for and conviction of treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. In his conduct of the office of President of the United States and in violation of his constitutional oath faithfully to execute the office of President of the United States and, to the best of his ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States, and in violation of his constitutional duty to take care that the laws be faithfully executed, Donald J. Trump has abused the powers of his presidency in that, and this is where they start listing what he did. Using the powers of his high office, President Trump solicited the interference of a foreign government, Ukraine, in the 2020 United States presidential election. He did so through a scheme or course of conduct that included soliciting the government of Ukraine to publicly announce investigations that would benefit his reelection. Anyway, so it's that. And then they outline what exactly it was. That he withheld the military aid, and that he also withheld a White House meeting. Because it goes in subsection 1, sub A, sub B, with the same motives, acting both directly and through his agents. So they are also not indicting, I can't think of the word, they're implicating Rudy Giuliani, Mick Mulvaney, Bill Barr. I don't think they name them, but they certainly say through his agents. Then they talk about the $391 million, a head of state meeting at the White House, And then faced with the public revelation of his actions, President Trump ultimately released the military and security assistance to the government of Ukraine, but has persisted in openly and corruptly urging and soliciting Ukraine to undertake investigations for his personal political benefit. I don't have a problem with this. I think everybody expected the abuse of office, the abuse of his powers to be one of the, I want to keep this in order, one of the articles. What is a little odd, though, is that Article 2 is only obstruction of Congress. And this might be the political animal in me, but it seems to me that if you only include obstruction of Congress, when Congress only has an approval rating in the low teens, according to some polls, the American people aren't really going to care too much. They're not really going to worry that Donald Trump is obstructing Congress. Oh, those assholes in Congress, who cares if he obstructs them? So I think the Judiciary Committee and Nancy Pelosi and Jerry Nadler, and certainly Adam Schiff had a role in this decision making. I think they're overplaying their hand relative to how much the American people really care. I didn't want to get this mixed up, and now it's mixed up. Oh, there we go. So I think they're overplaying their hand. And what bothers me a lot, sorry, I'm not paying attention here. What bothers me a lot about this, again, you can find this. I think I got this from PBS. They've got an actual link to the PDF. You don't even have to read it from their website. You can just download it. It's 9 pages. What bothers me, and what I wish they would have done, and I really hope they go back, and I think it's because of moderate Democrats. That's what I'm hearing. That moderate Democrats did not want them to include not just obstruction of Congress, but obstruction of justice. That is the serious. Look, obstruction of Congress certainly is a problem because it shows his willingness to subvert the Constitution relative to the separation of powers. That's a problem. But obstructing justice is a blatant criminal problem with violating the Constitution. And Robert Mueller, in his Volume 2, outlined 10 separate instances, several of which Congress could have taken and added into this. I don't understand why they're only focusing on the Ukraine thing that we learned about after the July 25th, 2019 call. Why focus only on that when we've got actual obstruction of justice where Donald Trump tried to get Don McGahn to fire Robert Mueller and then subsequently went to him and said, hey, don't tell anybody I said that. In fact, the memos that you wrote, destroy those and rewrite them. Write different memos indicating that I did not. I want you to expressly say that I did not try to get you to fire Robert Mueller. That's obstruction of justice, and it's not being included in here, and it bums me out. Now, 2 other things shortly before I take some questions through the chat is the White House response. Stephanie Grisham, the White House press secretary, I don't know why we call her a press secretary since she doesn't ever do press conferences. She went on Fox News and indicated that, the Democrats are in disarray because we expected like 5 articles of impeachment. So they're claiming this is some kind of victory because there was only 2. Which is, I mean, come on. That is bizarro world bullshit right there. And then the other thing is that they are reporting right now that there is a conflict between Donald Trump or the White House and Mitch McConnell, because I got to look at it because it's not in my head. Article 1, Section 4, I believe it is. Let me see. Article in Section 3 gives the Senate shall have the sole power to try an impeachment. So the Senate rules, or whatever particular way they go about this, structuring it, is going to be taken up by the Senate, by Mitch McConnell ultimately, since he's the majority leader. And there is some conflict, apparently, reportedly, between the Trump camp and Mitch McConnell in the Senate. They haven't said specifically what it is, but it could, ultimately I think that Mitch McConnell is such a spineless, cowardly little worm that he's going to capitulate to whatever Donald Trump wants. Because the Senate, they don't want to turn this into a circus, a political circus. And I think Donald Trump does. I think now that we're here, he wants to make this a reality show. So those are things to follow. Anyway, if you have some questions now that you can hear me, let's hear them. I have to look down at the screen to hear the questions. Okay, let me answer that. That's not really a question, but Krovax 13, having only 2 articles is better because it prints a clear-cut case to the public. I understand that, and it's that reasoning that I think is backing up my point, is that you have to make a clear case to the public in order that the Senate comes around to public opinion. And the I don't know when you joined Krovax, I think that was the name. But because of that, I don't think the public are going to really give a damn about obstruction of Congress. They're going to look at this as, every administration fails to even Obama's administration. Eric Holder was actually held in contempt of Congress because he failed to comply with subpoenas. That's what they're going to say. Every administration does this. And it's true, most do. The difference is this was an investigation that only Congress can undertake relative to impeachment. So when you deny them the sole power of investigating an impeachment article, that is the ultimate disrespect, the ultimate disregard of the constitutional separation of powers. But I don't think people are going to buy into that. I think they're just going to think, those assholes in Congress, who cares what Donald Trump does or doesn't do relative to following their orders? But that's my opinion. We can all disagree about this reasonably. Sometimes reasonably. Let me see. If he's impeached, does that mean he's... That is a question that gets asked a lot. TNG 2112. If he's impeached, does that mean he can't? Impeached and removed. You gotta say that. You have to make sure that you're talking, because impeachment is the process of getting it to the trial, and then the trial is something different. They're going to vote. He's going to be impeached. It's whether or not he gets removed. And then the Senate, after removal, has to actually vote whether to allow him to stand for public office again, federal office again. There was a federal judge named Alcee Hastings in the 90s, and he was impeached and removed, and then the Senate didn't vote to preclude him from running for office again, and he ran for Congress and won. So that is something we'll have to look at. How many cases? Let me see. Jesse, how many cases are open with Trump, tax issues, corruption, Trump organization? I don't know how many exactly are open right now. There is certainly state cases that, one, aren't covered under the pardon power of a next president, whether that be Mike Pence or a Democrat. There are cases relative to that. There are still investigations going on. There are new investigations that don't necessarily involve directly Donald Trump, but Giuliani and these other Lev Parnas and Igor Fruman and their campaign donation impropriety, funneling money in from Russia and from Ukraine, and from their pals in the pro-Russian government that Ukraine used to have. But there's still investigations, certainly. The Southern District of New York is pretty busy with this administration. Let's see. Jesse, the Democrats lost after the Clinton impeachment. Why all this fear about impeachment backlash? From Tor Forland. I don't know that I understand your question. The Democrats certainly did have problems. In 2000, they did lose the presidency, but not really. It was another situation where, because of the Electoral College, Al Gore lost. Why all this fear about impeachment backlash? You'll have to rephrase that again, because I don't have a fear of impeachment backlash. This must be done to send a message to future presidents, both Democrat and Republican, that this behavior cannot stand. I've used this analogy before, that if somebody commits a heinous crime, you don't not prosecute because you think they might get off, that there's not a certainty that they'll be prosecuted, that they'll be, convicted. You move forward because of the principle of it. And we have to be better than Republicans. Obviously, Republicans don't give a damn about the principle of anything. The only principle they stand for is the principle of power, the principle of remaining in office and having political power. I don't ever want to settle for being that. We should always strive to be better and more principled, to have the moral and ethical high ground. Does Nunes could be indicted? Devin Nunes could be indicted. Yeah, he absolutely could. Oh, good, Tor. I'm glad you agree with me. It makes me super happy when people agree with me, Tor. I'm afraid if he wins in 2020, he's going to retaliate against his never-Trumpers, or who knows what he might do. Yeah, I think that's a valid consideration, that if he wins in 2020, he will be untethered from the worry of re-election. He will be able to do whatever comes to his stupid mind, that he can't be, outside of being controlled by the separation of powers and the courts. He will be trying to do all kinds of, who knows, maybe another round of tax cuts for the fraction of the 1%. It won't be good. It is certainly a fear. However, I think this impeachment serves only to hurt Donald Trump. I don't think in any way that I've looked at this and tried to contemplate what would happen, I cannot imagine that in any way it's going to benefit him, that it's going to turn out a number of people to the polls because of, he just did the right thing. More and more and more people are, it is a 43% want him to stay in office. 46% voted for him. So there are fewer people now who want him to remain in office relative to the impeachment question than even voted for him. So his support, his base has evaporated. He still obviously has a contingent of the loyal, cultish, unwashed, politically uneducated, the deplorables, as Hillary Clinton called them. But that'll probably never go away. Those are people who never were involved or engaged with politics before, who felt emboldened by his plain speak and his he says what's on his mind. He calls it like he sees it. That kind of a mentality, rather than, he's a sober statesman who cares about our standing in the world and cares about the people of the United States, to offer them a hand up, to help them in their lives, to make this country better. Rather than that, we need to get the brown people out of here, and we need to give tax cuts to the rich because someday maybe I'll be rich and then I'll be able to enjoy. Who knows why, but that's my calculus of it. Let me see. This is the problem with these chats, is they move too quick. Yeah, Patrick Sprung. Hi, Jesse Dollemore. I just joined the stream. Not sure if you already talked about this or whatever already, but why only 2 articles of impeachment? I did talk about it. This chat, I'm not going to go through the whole thing again, so everybody has to listen to it again. But Patrick, there is this will be cataloged, or there's like a DVR feature, so this will be available on the chat, because I got right to it. It is something I talked about a while back. Is the audio out of sync? I don't know. Sonny's dad, very possibly. But again, I could barely get the audio working, so maybe refresh, but somebody else could say whether it is. Did you hear Trump could win Man of the Year again? Did Trump win Man of the Year before? Is that something that happened? I don't remember that that's what happened. I know he's had Time magazines printed with his face on them, and he's certainly been on the covers, but I don't remember specifically whether he won that. T-Love, love your channel. Thanks, T-Love. I love my channel too. Thunderbird, GOP has always despised the Constitution, and their lies about the Second Amendment are just one more example. Yeah, I don't know if I would consider what they're saying lies about the Second Amendment. I think there are certainly different ways to interpret the Second Amendment, which is, by the way, the most poorly written, grammatically, item in the Constitution. That there's like commas where there shouldn't be. It was written very ambiguously, and it's a bummer. Now, obviously, it wasn't until Heller, I'm getting into the weeds here, that people aren't going to, they're not going to care. But it wasn't until the Heller decision in D.C. that it was considered an individual right, like in canon, constitutionally, Supreme Court recognized as an individual right to keep and bear arms, to own a weapon. Connie, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Sorry, I'm staring at I should have the monitor higher. I don't want to lift something and have a cord come out, and then I'd really be screwed. If you ask a question in the chat, type like 4 or 5 question marks first, and then your question, so I can see that it was a question. Because a lot of people are actually asking or just making comments and chatting with one another, which is great. What do I think about the IG report? Parachus. Sorry, I went too quick. I think it's very interesting. Actually, I think it's great. But it's interesting that if you, depending on what media source you listen to, it is either like a complete vindication of Donald Trump. I don't listen to Fox or watch Fox. Or they act like it's very damning for Donald Trump, who's been spreading conspiracy theories for a year. And it's both of those things. Now, let me rephrase that. It certainly doesn't exonerate Donald Trump. Not at all. But there were low-level FBI agents who omitted information relative to the renewal of FISA warrants against Carter Page. Now, that's a problem. Because, let me tell you, if someone is going to be renewing or even trying to get a FISA warrant against me or you want it to be dealt with the highest level of professionalism and adherence to the law and the Fourth Amendment of our Constitution, which protects us, protects our right. It doesn't grant our right, but it protects our right, as I spit all over my computer, it protects our right against unreasonable search and seizures or surveillance. So if they're omitting information that a judge should be using to make a decision, I mean, it doesn't mean if they left that information in, the warrant wouldn't have been reapproved or approved for a new warrant. It doesn't mean that. But you have to give the judge all the information. So that's a problem. That person should be punished or whatever consequence needs to be that would be appropriate based on what exactly was omitted. It seems to me that that needs to be done. However, the main finding that I think is great is the fact that there were zero political elements that went into these FISA warrants. There was no spying on the Trump campaign, like every reasonable person in America figured. And that those decisions that were made about the omission of certain information on the FISA warrant, on the applications, those were made by like low-level people no one's ever heard of. They weren't given orders from above. It's a bummer for Donald Trump. It is going against everything he's been saying for 3 years about being wiretapped, in quotes, in his tweets, and that James Comey ordered this, and it blows it away. Now, Horowitz is a straight shooter. He is not a guy. For instance, the Andrew McCabe, I was spacing on his name. Andrew McCabe, the former acting director of the FBI and former deputy director under James Comey, he had his pension stripped from him because of the findings of the IG, Horowitz. This guy is not like an anti-Trump guy. He is a straight shooter, tough judge of things. So if he had found impropriety, he absolutely would have included it in that report. And that is what is so strange about Bill Barr just being a Trump sycophant, just a bootlicker of Donald Trump. I mean, I don't know too much about what his reputation was before, but he is certainly creating a legacy for himself right now. That isn't great. No one important. Do you see this as something that could potentially help Trump, or all Americans' minds made up, and this changes nothing on either side? Well, one, thank you for the super chat. That's fantastic. I appreciate it. It really depends. The answer to the question is unknown right now. It really depends upon how Democrats handle this. Now, one of the reasons why I've been wanting them to slow down with this process is because you have to give the American people time to catch up. Because then, once they've caught up and approve impeachment, then the Senate will need time to catch up and change their respective opinions, individual senators who are the jurors in the trial. And, like, for instance, we don't even know what John Bolton has to say. They didn't even subpoena him. Why are they not trying to get John Bolton's opinion of this, who would have absolutely had primary evidence in this case? That seems like, to call it a missed opportunity is outlandishly stupid and an understatement. That we're not trying to get Donald Trump's former national security advisor under subpoena, under oath, to testify about what he knows and what he said about the drug deal that Mulvaney has cooking up. There's no way to look at that as not a mistake on the part of the Democrats. And why rush to get this done by Christmas? It doesn't make any sense to me. Let's see. When are they going to vote on articles of impeachment? I don't know. James Betteridge. I don't know. They haven't said, or I've been in here with you. And I don't have a TV in here yet in my studio, so I can't follow along. But I would assume it's going to be shortly with the Dollemore unapproved pace at which they've been running. Let's see. Natty and Daddy Show. Natty and Daddy Show. Jesse, big fan. Hang on one second. Let me scroll this down. Did you discuss Joe Biden leading in all the polls? That comment bothered me, and as a fan of the show, I'd like it if you had acknowledged Bernie 20 winning in Cali. I'm not talking about statewide polls, Natty and Daddy Show. It is a fact. Look, I'm not supporting Joe Biden for president. In fact, if you listen to my podcast, the last couple episodes, I have ranted and raved about Joe Biden's behavior on the campaign trail. So I'm not a Joe Biden supporter, but it's a fact. He leads nationally. He just leads. He leads Elizabeth Warren. He leads Bernie Sanders. He leads Pete Buttigieg. He's the leader of the polls. I'm not happy about it, but I'm not going to not say that when it's true. Let's see. Hope that answers your question. And I hope I didn't come across like a dick. Who is my dim presidential choice? Yeah, it's between Elizabeth Warren and Bernie. You know, I think any of them are heads. I mean, it goes obvious. Everybody says that they're all better than Donald Trump. Certainly that's true. But I don't know. I think it's a little early for me to be, it's a horse race. That I should collab with Beau of the Fifth Column. I've heard that before. I've heard a lot about collabs. I would love to do one. I just have no earthly idea how to do it. I am not a tech guy. I've got the podcast dialed in because I've been doing it for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of episodes. But this video thing, I barely have the ability to edit videos in Adobe Premiere. My skill set is writing and running my mouth, not the tech stuff. But thank you, Alex. If you have an idea, you can email me at onenorething@dollemore.com, or you can leave a voicemail at 714-576-4054. And thanks for the super chat. That is fantastic. Yeah, why not emoluments clause or obstruction of justice or breach of public trust or bribery and extortion? That is from Patrick Sprung. I think you already asked one, and that's awesome. Great questions. Yes. Why not those things? Why not emoluments clause? It is clear he is taking payments from foreign governments. And the Republicans are trying to switch it and say that he's not making a profit. It doesn't matter. The Constitution doesn't say you can't profit from the office from foreign governments. It says no payment, no money can be given, whether you're breaking even or what. It doesn't matter. That should absolutely be in there. I don't know why they're limiting this thing, why they're speeding it along. Jesse, next week is vote, and first of year, the Senate trial starts. Sally Cox, thank you. I haven't fact-checked that. I try to caveat, but I'm sure that it's right. Psychedelia, could we put MAGA maggots in internment camps and feed the squirrel they are all desperately need? I don't like that talk. That is any talk of concentration camps or internment camps. I think you're probably joking, but these are American citizens who just have shitty opinions about things. Let's see. Treason is such a powerful word. He throws words like that around. Isn't that dangerous? Yes. And I don't know if you're talking about my shirt, which, by the way, let me put a link to these shirts in the chat. I don't know if you're talking about my shirt or not, but sorry, I have so many freaking windows open here. But I believe that Donald Trump did commit treason in Helsinki when he stood shoulder to shoulder with Vladimir Putin and went against the obvious, skillful, patriotic, dedicated public servants in our intelligence community and said, I know what they all say, but I'll tell you what, Vladimir Putin says he didn't do it, and I don't know why he wouldn't. I don't know why he would have done it. That's treason. That is giving aid and comfort to your enemy on live international TV. So no, I don't think that now I'm making an assumption here. If you're talking about the shirt, no, I don't think it's too much. And yeah, he does throw it around. but he's a moron who doesn't understand what it actually means. And he actually advocates for doing things the old-fashioned way and killing people who are accused of treason. Donald Trump believes that if you're disloyal to him, the man, the human being, that you're committing treason. Not disloyal to the Constitution or to the country. Anyway. Let me see. Can Trump be investigated for crimes in office after he loses next year? Absolutely. Yes. The only reason that Donald Trump enjoys immunity from investigation in some cases, and certainly immunity from indictment, is because of an Office of Legal Counsel memo in the Justice Department that has just decided that a sitting president cannot be indicted. It is not in the Constitution. It is not a law. It's a Office of Legal Counsel opinion in a memo. Many constitutional scholars, I am not one, but many constitutional scholars believe it's BS. And I agree with them. But yeah, once he's out of office, he doesn't retain any immunities. He can absolutely be investigated. He can absolutely be indicted. He can absolutely be convicted. He can absolutely be arrested. And he can absolutely be sent to prison. Where is VP Pence? Hiding under his desk, Carmen. Mike Pence has a blanket covering him, hiding under his desk because he is so fearful. What if he gets reelected? We're going to have to cross that bridge when we come to it. I think it's going to be a bummer. Why is a rule stronger than a law or indictment? I think you're talking about the Office of Legal Counsel memo. It's not stronger. It's just abided by because it's the Department of Justice who would have to indict the president. And that's where the conflict of interest comes in, is that the Department of Justice is in the executive branch of government and kind of gets its marching orders from the president. That's why when Mike Pompeo is held in contempt of Congress and Bill Barr is held in contempt of Congress, and those are forwarded to the Justice Department, they just find their way nowhere because who's going to arrest Bill Barr in the Justice Department? Who's going to go and arrest the boss? It's something that needs to be addressed in our system. That is a glaring flaw in how things work. Sandy Roberts, I've asked this before, but never had an answer. Can Biden send a cease and desist letter to Trump for accusing him of unverified crimes? No, listen, this is another thing. It's a good question, but this is another thing that Donald Trump has done, is kind of lower the bar for what public figures are immune from. If you're in public life and you're a politician, there are things that are going to be said about you that are not true, that are accusations. And unless you're going to operate like Devin Nunes, who right now has several, multi-$100 million lawsuits out against journalists and just random people on Twitter who criticize him, that's just not. I'm sure, look, a lawyer can do anything. You could have a lawyer write a cease and desist for anything. I could have a lawyer write me a cease and desist and tell me not to wear this shirt anymore. I would tell him to F.O., but, I just, we need, there's a higher threshold for public figures than there is for just regular everyday citizens. It's one of the reasons why when I post a tweet of Donald Trump, I will blur some of the next tweets if they are just random people, because, they're just on Twitter. They're not looking for somebody with even my small of a platform to be outing them publicly. So I just think we should be careful about that. Miltz, should Capitol Police be moved under the office of the Sergeant at Arms of Congress? Capitol Police already is under the umbrella of of the sergeant at arms. The sergeant at arms of the House, and there's also a sergeant at arms of the Senate, and they're both kind of in the chain of command of Capitol Police. It's certainly under, I believe, the same budget, or at least it was when I worked there. The courts rule on... As the courts rule on all the cases against Trump, can additional articles be added to the list? Yes, it's a procedural thing, but they're going to have to go through the whole rigmarole of hearings and everything else and investigation. That's the very reason why I believe that, and that was Connie Catmama. That's the reason why I want this thing slowed down, is because as we have been investigating, and we, meaning the American people, finding out details, as Congress has investigated and we're finding things out, it has led to new witnesses to be called, finding out new things. Like when they called Bill Taylor, that's when we found out about the guy who heard the conversation with Sondland. It was only then that we learned about that. So why not go down that rabbit hole and start investigating, start subpoenaing new people? It's so perplexing to me, very frustrating to me, the way this thing has been handled, especially for people like Jerry Nadler and Adam Schiff, who seem to be detail-oriented investigators, especially Adam Schiff, who was a federal prosecutor. It seems we're rushing this thing. No need for that. Anthony, do I think Trump supporters will commit violence if the Senate removes Trump? Maybe, but I think it'll be isolated. This is, I think, and maybe, again, this is the optimist in me, but I have enough faith in even Republican senators that they would try to urge calm if something like this went down. If there was violence. But obviously, you can't account for MAGA bombers and nuts out there who are going to act without rationality. Yeah. Peter Ford. Do you think just the impeachment will do any good, considering the Senate will just make it out a sham and deny it? It's a great question. If the trial were held today, he would certainly be acquitted. The longer they wait to trial, the more time, again, that public opinion will have to switch. Then we will have to wait for Senate public opinion, or the senators, the jurors' opinions to switch. But will it do any good? Yeah, it'll tell future presidents that you don't have just a carte blanche to do whatever you want. There will be consequences, even if it's just political treachery, political damage and danger on the part of the opposition party. That there is a chance of him losing his presidency here, and certainly his legacy is, as though it wasn't already, is donezo because of this. So yeah, it sends a signal to future presidents that they are not all powerful, that they don't have an Article 2 that says they can do whatever they want, as Trump thinks. Looking for questions, everybody. Can the Secret Service member be called for testimony? They are in the room all the time and hear everything. I bet they would be exempted. And Secret Service is not in the room, not in the Oval Office. I don't think they would be privy to these conversations. Heavier than light. Jesse, some of these I just see the question and start reading, so I don't even know what the questions are. Can anything be done to increase the average intelligence for big parts of America? I've seen many, many arguments from supporters of Trump That doesn't make any sense. Yeah, it's what are you going to do? Some people are not blessed with the ability to string together rational thought. Connie. Name like Coney. Oh, Coney. Will I ever run for office? Once again, thank you for the super chat. I don't know. I don't know if I'll ever run for office. Maybe, but, a decade or 20 years down the line when I'm bored and retired or whatever. I just don't see myself. I used to have aspirations to do that, but not so much anymore. I think I can influence things, especially with my growing platform, small but growing now. I think I could do more good this way, not having to play the games and speak a certain way, and it would be hard to talk like I talk on the floor of the House or the Senate. W. Little, let's see. Even if Trump is removed or voted out in 2020, his arrogance won't allow him to go quietly and will probably say he still was the best president. There is nothing wrong about what you said. That is factual information. Stan 140574. Jesse, why do you hate the President Trump? Well, let me tell you, Stan, why I hate the President Trump. It's because I love the Constitution of the United States of America. I took an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic, when I enlisted in the United States Marine Corps. I revere that document. I revere the complexity and the wondrous nature of it, that it can be amended and changed, that it's a living, breathing document that runs our country. And Donald Trump has done nothing but disrespect it. Donald Trump strips families apart at the border who are applying for asylum, which they have a legal right to do, and thousands of kids have been taken from their parents, put into detention centers, and may never, many, hundreds and hundreds of them will likely never see their parents again. And that is only because of Donald Trump. Donald Trump is stripping away at the respectability of the United States, the power of the United States. He is only concerned about himself. And, unlike Nancy Pelosi, I do hate Donald Trump. He is an enemy of this country. He is an enemy of our standards. He is an enemy of the ethos that we should all aspire to. Our country has made many mistakes over the course of its couple 150 whatever years. Many. But we have a chance to build into something great, something better, something more humanitarian, something loving of humanity. And Donald Trump doesn't care about that. Donald Trump cares about himself. Donald Trump cares about enriching himself through the presidency of the United States. I hope that answers your question, Stan. Nick, hi from Belgium. How hard do you think the next president, I hope in 2020, will have to recover credibility in the international institutions? Love your work. Keep going. Nick, yeah, it's going to be a bummer for the next president. It's one of the reasons why we need to pick our next president very carefully, because they're going to have double duty. Not only are they going to have to lead the country into the future relative to policy, but they're also going to have to be undoing the damage that Donald Trump has caused to our institutions, and also the way we're viewed around the world by, progressive countries like your own. Not just the major countries in Europe like France, but the smaller countries like yours, like Scandinavia, Northern Europe. We have abdicated our role as the most powerful country in the world relative to influence. And we've given it away to countries like France and Germany. It's going to be a hard job for the next president. But I think that especially our NATO partners, I think they understand that certainly it's a setback, but I think they understand that the next president, be they Republican or Democrat, maybe that's too optimistic, but the next president will come at this from a more traditional foothold than Donald Trump. What is one piece of evidence do you think is irrefutable to Republicans that will make them turn on Donald Trump? One, thank you for the super chat. I love you guys. I don't know. Right now, Taryn, I don't know what the one piece is that they're not going to be able to deny. Because there have been so many things that are clear, indictable crimes from Donald Trump that just get ignored, like idiots like Mark Meadows. And I realize not every Republican is like Mark Meadows or Jim Jordan or Devin Nunes or Matt Gaetz or Kevin McConnell. Not everyone is like these asswipes. But to read the call transcript, which I don't have a copy of here, and to say that Donald Trump did nothing wrong, when Zelensky says, and we are going to be ready to buy more Javelin missiles for defense purposes very soon. And Donald Trump's next sentence after that isn't, oh, great, we would love to partner with you. We'd love to help you in your resistance to Russian aggression, Russian military violence against your citizens in your country. We would love to partner. We want to help you. We want to be there for you as an ally. Rather than say that, the very first words out of his mouth are, I want you to do us a favor, though. Quid pro quo is something for something. He says, I want more Javelin missiles from you, something we desperately need to fight off military aggression of an enemy. He says, we want that, and Donald Trump says, but I want you to do us a favor, though. Though is an indicator that his request is predicated upon whatever the favor is. That's obvious to anybody who speaks the English language with any fluency whatsoever. And all of those ding-dongs that I just mentioned deny the reality of it, that's what happened. I don't understand that. Not only do I not understand it, back to your question, I don't know what one piece, because if they don't think that, they're clearly acting politically. Because these aren't, listen, I talk about them being the dumbest, and they're not stupid men. They're not cognitively disabled. They can read words and string together the meaning of a sentence, and they're acting politically expedient. Rather, they're putting their country behind the good of their party and the good of their personal political power that they happen to have right now. That's why this election is so important. That's why if you're thinking about sitting out, no. You need to tell your boss, now I'm taking a day off. That's how important this next election is. No matter what district you're in, no matter if you live in California where I live, where it's safe, quote unquote, that Donald Trump no way is getting elected, or whether you live in a state that's not quite as blue, safe. Let's say Mississippi. Because if everybody who thought, it doesn't matter, If they actually came out and vote, it would make a difference, and it would make the races a lot closer. And it would wake the Republicans up to start changing their bullshit and start onboarding policies that are actually good for America. I would love to get back to a time when there is just standard political disagreement relative to policy. And it doesn't come down to a matter of patriotism and love of not just country, but our citizens, our actual neighbors. Great question. Thank you. Gilbert Gaines, you are facing... it's running away. Hang on. You are facing the same ignorance black people have faced for centuries, hypocrisy reinforced by ignorance. Yeah, there's a lot of that. I get a lot of comments sometimes that I take dumps on the South too much. And that might be true. It might be true. But statistically speaking, Southern states have done a tremendous amount of damage to the progress we've made in this country, or tried to make in this country, and it bothers me. You know, I lived in North Carolina for a while when I was in the Marine Corps, and it was an eye-opener. I also lived in Virginia, albeit Northern Virginia, when I worked on Capitol Hill, and the South is different than the rest of the country. There are a lot of ignorance reinforced ideas. Hypocrisy reinforced by ignorance, like you said. I'm going to answer a few more because I'm running up on an hour here, and I have things to do, hopefully for a video tomorrow, and maybe about this. We'll see. Can we trust the election results in 2020? That is it. I'm going to leave on that question, Tim Caldwell. That is a great question. And because I'm hopeful, and because I am optimistic, usually in all things, we don't really have a choice but to. We need to have a little faith in our Democratic leaders, party leaders, that they're going to do everything they can to ensure that it is free and fair. Donald Trump enlisting the help of a foreign ally to influence the voters through an investigation is different than being able to guarantee that your vote counts. That is something different. Now, through gerrymandering and redistricting efforts like that and voter suppression, all those things chip away at the integrity of our vote in this country. Foreign interference, foreign influence in our elections. See how I combined those two? Interfluence. All those things chip away at the integrity, at the confidence that the American people have in the vote. That is why, again, I'm going to start screaming about this at the end of videos. It is vital, critically important that you get out there and you vote this election. Every election you hear that this is the most important election in the history of our country. And it has never been more true than 2020. This election with Donald Trump versus whomever the Democratic nominee is the most important election of our lifetime and maybe of the entire history of our republic. We may be in a situation where we have for another 4 years a man, going back to the treason, who stands next to our not just adversary, but our attacker, someone who attacked our democracy, stood next to him shoulder to shoulder and took his side over that of 17 separate independent intelligence operators in the intelligence community. Took the side of our enemy over that of the CIA and the DIA and the NSA and the FBI and their counterintelligence operation and many other organizations. It is critical that you vote. And not just that you vote, that you get your cousins to vote, your friends to vote, your neighbors to vote. If you've never given $1 to a candidate, this is the year to give them $5, to give them $3. Because like I talk about joining the channel and being a channel member, the same thing applies with this election. If we marshal the size of my audience, I'll go back to that, but with the country, if we marshal every single sympathetic voter who thinks Donald Trump is doing bad, but just has never voted before because they don't think their vote matters, if we're able to capture a healthy percentage of those people, we won't have anything to worry about. We can send Donald Trump off into the mist to go sit on his gold toilet eating cheeseburgers, to die an old man. But this is the year. I mean, I can't. It's critical. It's critical. There was a super chat that I saw, and then I'm going to end. Will you do a talk with Bo and David Packman? Like I said, this is. Thank you for the super chat. Awesome. Thank you very much. I would love to do a collaboration with any one of those guys. I would reach out to them, tweet at them. You know, I don't know what I would do. If you have suggestions, email me at onemorething@dollemore.com. You can call and leave a voicemail, 714-576-4054. I'm going to get better at these live streams. I'm going to be able to put up the thing right along the bottom of the screen where you can see the number, where I can post the questions up on the screen so everybody can follow along. I am going to get better at this because this was fun. This is a good time. I like interacting with you guys. I love you guys. And I don't just mean that like a euphemistically, I appreciate you. I do appreciate you. I love my audience. I think you guys are awesome. I think you guys care. You're engaged. And again, without, getting emotional and pissed off and trying to convince everybody how important it is, I'm kind of preaching to the choir with you guys because I think you understand just how important this next election is. So thank you. And with that, to convince you to become a channel member. Like I just said, if I'm able to marshal the size of my audience, today's video, I just checked. YouTube's having some issues, but it looked like they had demonetized my video that I did today about the impeachment hearings yesterday. And that's it's depressing because a lot of work goes into researching and pulling together clips and watching the entire day of, maybe it looks like they've monetized it. Okay, well, never mind. But anyway, if you appreciate what I do, if you get any value at all, even if I make you laugh by being a jackass like I am, that's some value, and I would appreciate it. Even if you just consider becoming a channel member, click the join button for like $1.99 a month. You wouldn't even miss that. If you're in a situation where you wouldn't miss that, I would invite you to come on board. I'm going to start doing a lot more of these. Once I get my shit together, I'm going to start doing ones that are just members only and these, but there'll be some members only ones as well. And that'll be awesome. So anyway, again, I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. If you have ideas for the show, if you have ideas about collaborations with other creators, I'm down with that. I'd love to, if it's here in the Los Angeles area, that'd be even better because we could actually be in the same room. I think that would be organic and pretty great. But I'd love to hear about them. Again, I'll leave it one more time, and then I'm going to go onemorething@dollemore.com, 714-576-4054. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys.